beginnings of a very, gosh, what would we say, Ike? A journey. It's been a journey through just about every sad and sorrowful dynamic that a family would have to deal with. And we've been through a lot of it, and we're going to talk about a lot of it today. The first interview I did with Ike was in regards to the piece at the back, which has a phrase on it, and I'm going to ask you to start there and to talk about the phrase that you're using to tie all of this together.
Cool. Well, once again, I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for everybody coming. And again, just really excited about being on this this adventure with my dad. It's just a treasure to me, and I'm grateful to be here in Campbellsville today. We had a great Tangle #1, and that's how I'm referring to these paintings that I'm making for these events. I'm shooting for however many, 7 or 8. I may hit the mark. I'm still on pace to hit 7. The first one is back there, and it's called Solvitur Ambulando. And the word in there, Solvitur Ambulando, is a Latin phrase that is translated as there is salvation in walking, or walking solves everything, or walking is the solution, or whatever. So I've used that phrase, which I came across years ago while reading, and during a phase of my life that continues to this day, a phase that I do a lot of walking.
Do you remember where you read the phrase?
I don't remember where I read. I remember where I was. I was in United States Penitentiary at USP Lewisburg, the original big house, they claim.
Which is in central Pennsylvania.
Nestled in the gently rolling hills of central Pennsylvania's Susquehanna River Valley, just an hour north from Harrisburg, the capital.
It's attributed, when I first was introduced to this phrase through you, it's attributed to St. Augustine, who of course had his own pretty dramatic journey.
Yeah,
in life.
It's been used many, many times throughout. Like I posted about it. There's been poets and of course the Greeks and all the philosophers, whatever. It comes up a lot. This notion and this truth that motion and walking specifically contributes to thinking in a way that is positive.
Now, you referenced the fact that you were in the U.S. Penitentiary in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Yes. Tell us about the walking while you were incarcerated.
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I was sentenced to 98 months. The first half of that I spent at United States Penitentiary, Lewisburg. Very grateful for that opportunity.
Look at me.
One of the things that you can do with your time, because you have to do something, everybody's supposed to have a job. I didn't choose to work in their factory, and was reprimanded for it frequently until I finally got a job teaching art, sort of created my own job. And one of the things that I did with my time was walk the track with my friend, Woodstock, who was a man who was put in my life by the grace of the mystery, which is what the painting behind me is.
Okay, so talk to us about the painting.
Right, so, but it is a good segue from that to this. So this is Woodstock. I met him at USP Lewisburg, and was so lucky to have that happen, because having a good friend in a place like this is very important. And I I didn't know how much I would love him, how important he would become to me. But we spoke the spiral
What does
daily.
that mean? Spoke the spiral.
That's the term we used to refer to the endless conversations that we would have walking in circles on the track or outside the, on the edge of the prison yard, for hours and hours, days and days, weeks and weeks, months and years. So, you just go around and around on your conversations. They happen again and happen again and happen again.
Now, I want to ask you about the walking track.
Yeah.
In the prison, describe to us the walking track that you walk.
Well, it's just a track. So there's a track, which is over by the soccer field. So the wall, there's a 20-foot wall around the entire prison. Inside of that is the prison itself, inside this wall. Also inside this wall is the yard. On the yard, there are 6 or 7 different little segments. You'll have your soccer field, your basketball field, the general purpose field, the little softball shack, the bathrooms, the handball courts, etc. Outside all of this stuff, between all of that stuff and the 20-foot wall is a little trail you can see where people have been walking as far, going as far as you can. You get to the wall, you got to just, keep the wall on your right, you're good,
And so you would walk it every day?
Every day. I would get up, make a cup of coffee, make a dab-a-ding, that's what we called it, which is like a lot of coffee, and sugar and creamer, and go out to the yard after eating and walk and draw people. I would just take my sketch pad and draw people.
I want to come back to the drawing part.
Yeah.
How did you end up with Woodstock? Did you have some choice over him as your
Yeah,
cellmate?
sure. That's such a good question. So I want to just say it would be impossible for me, with any acceptable level of verisimilitude, to get all of you to prison and to understand what it's like there. But I can try with words. So yes, prisoners do have some choice and some control over who it is they're living with. As long as you're not like a problem person, getting in trouble all the time or whatnot. You have a cellie. My first cellie was not Woodstock. I remember both the 2 cellies I had prior to Woodstock. And I won't go on about them, but they're also interesting and fascinating. And this is funny. When I first met Woodstock, I would pass him on the yard, and I'm like, look at this guy. Who does he think he's different? You know what I mean? Like, what does he think he's cool or something? Because I could tell he had a cool vibe, and he always stylized himself. He would, whatever he had, he would dreadlock his hair, or he would stylize his cuffs, or here or whatever. And he was always making things. So he stood out big time in prison. Most people have shaved heads in prison, and if you shave your head, if you're a white guy and you shave your head in prison, it's assumed really that you are part of the, like a gang, you know what I mean? Like that you might be racist, right? So it's very racially polarized. Yeah. So I saw him as somebody different and as possibly an option, but I was like, he seems kind of weird, because I'd see him over in the corner with this other dude named Freaky Freddy doing like handstands and yoga, and I was like, I don't know about this guy,
Do you remember your first conversation with him?
I do, very vividly, actually. We were, I don't know exactly what floor we were on, but I was drawing this picture. I was living with a guy who was super OCD. He had escaped from prison twice, and was doing a life sentence, and he looked like Norman Bates, right? He was really like high strung, and so everything had to be exactly where it had to be. And so the art I was making reflected that, and like I was doing 100 tiny flowers on a thing, and so this guy comes to my door and knocks on the door, which is kind of cracked, which means you guys can knock and come in, open for conversation. And he knocked.
And you mean the door of your cell?
The door of my cell, because they lock it every night around 10 o'clock. It's
okay.
Locked down. And so knocked on the door, and he kind of pulled over and was like, come on in. I'm up in the top bunk in the corner, like.
Was there somebody else in the cell with you?
Yes, the guy was down below me, and we were actually going back and forth. He had a copy of the DSM, the diagnostic manual, and I would open it up and say, here's you. And he would open it up, like he'd get irritated about that and open it up and then show me what I was. It was kind of funny, because we were both like probably definitely diagnosable at the time, at least, anyway. So, you know, I mean, talk about a wacky scene. So this guy knocks on the door and asks for cookies to go with his milk. I was like,
And you're talking
yes,
about,
I've got some cookies.
You're talking about Woodstock.
Yeah.
He asked for cookies to
Yeah.
go with his milk.
That's right. He had milk, but no cookies. And so we started talking, and, you know, we checked off all the lists. You know, oh, you like the Grateful Dead? I like the Grateful Dead, you know. And so we go through the list, and, you know, honestly, meeting somebody in an environment like that is comes from a similar socioeconomic background is such a great thing. Like, you're like, oh, hey, brother, you know. Not that there weren't tons of people in there from, like, you know, middle class, I guess is what we are.
So
but
what was his background? You eventually found out. What was his background?
his father and mother, and he is from Silver Springs, Maryland.
The outskirts of D.C.
Just outside D.C., by Rock Creek Park is what he always would tell me about in prison. The stories he told me about home were all about Rock Creek Park and stuff
Okay.
like this. And so he comes from there. He was he had a degree in geology, was a
college-
skateboarder, a college degree
college
from the
degree?
University of Montana in Missoula, and check, like he's got some credentials. But I could tell right away that we were gonna be friends, and so we agreed right there in that first conversation that I would move into his cell, which was a corner cell, which is great, because it's a little bit bigger, and we had to arrange it. It took about 3 or 4 weeks to make it happen because Freaky Freddy was actually his cellie at the time, and he was transferring in a month, so I had to wait a month, and then I got to move in with him, and it was wonderful. And we lived together
For how long?
In a bathroom with bunk beds for the next. The rest of the time we were at Lewisburg. We were there for the next 3 years, and then we were together still. We both went down to USP Big Sandy when they opened that prison, another federal prison. Also, this one's in Kentucky, in Inez, Kentucky, and it was from Anyway, we came down to Big Sandy together, and we were there. He finished his federal sentence about 2 years before I finished mine. He still had state time to do so. He finished his federal sentence and went to the state of Maryland, where he and I continued to correspond through letters, and stayed in very close touch. But we both then raised up out of prison in the middle of 2007. And I was about to turn 31, and I still to this day I'm not even sure how much older he is than me, but he's about 4 or 5 years older than me.
What became of him after he left prison?
So Woodstock had a hard time keeping it together, and he's passed away since. He passed away June 16th, 2016, and as a direct result of the disease of addiction.
And your portrait of him here, in a cell, do you see this portrait as a particular cell in Inez, Kentucky, Big Sandy?
No, this would be Lewisburg.
This
and
is Lewisburg.
The reason it's Lewisburg is because Lewisburg was a prison built in 1932 or 33.
With stones, with...
Well, yeah, they still use cinder block when they build them. They do, but that cinder block feel with the layers and layers and layers of paint, and you can see all the different color theory that the federal people have gone through. Well, taupe is very calming, or sea green is very calming. So there's layer and layer and layer.
Trying to calm down.
When they make it all very, and in Lewisburg, especially in the hole, and I did spend about 2.5 years in the hole between both Lewisburg and Big Sandy, and it's just something that's unavoidable.
Why would you be in the hole?
Well, for breaking a rule, or like the first time I went to the hole is for insolence.
What does that mean?
I made a joke that they didn't like or something, like I said something smart, I won't repeat the joke. It's not a dirty joke, but it might not be the right joke for the moment.
They may put you in the hole here,
It was. I was like, "What? You're doing what? You're putting me in the hole?" And then later, I went to the hole several times because I was trying to become a tattoo artist, which is contraband, And so after losing my investment of however much it cost to buy the ink and the the stuff, and the gun, which was made out of a beard trimmer motor or something like this, something very hard to get. So you're paying $150. We're about 20 or 30 books of stamps. And so, here it is. You invest in yourself, right, in your business. And then, just as soon as you got the needle in your buddy's back or in his arm or whatever, there all of a sudden the lieutenant who you didn't hear come in, and you should have because you got keys, but there he is standing at your door, and
there you go.
And then there you go to the hole again.
There you go to
Pack
the hole
it up,
again.
Moody. Yeah. So I stopped trying to be a tattoo artist. Eventually, I was like, okay, I'm good with tattooing.
Did you ever tattoo Woodstock?
I did. I tattooed himself and myself, actually. I'm so glad you asked that. Yeah. What I did for him is I touched up the ones he already had. Like there were, he
improved them, no doubt.
So one way, I would hope so, but I was not, I'm not a tattoo artist. I mean, I could show you the one I did on myself, and it's pretty good for the first and only full tattoo I've ever done. But for Woodstock, when he saw me do that one, which was near the beginning of our friendship, it was about 3 months after I met him, and I think he's the one that suggested it. I had drawn this picture of this phoenix or whatever. While I was in the hole. And I was in the hole just depressed, like, eating Snickers bars and just being like, whoa. And then finally I was like, oh my gosh, I have 98 months to be in prison. I cannot be like this sad the whole time I'm here. So I just rolled off that bunk and started doing push-ups. And I've been doing them ever since. And walking, push-ups, walking in water. That's what changed, and it changed me.
Do you have any tattoos on you now that remind you or are there because of Woodstock?
I do. I have two. Yeah. So he gave me a bone necklace that he was Native American. He claimed to be Native American. Okay. So we always got to go to the Indian Sweat Lodge on Saturdays and eat like the fried bread and like sweat, which was super awesome. I was invited by Woodstock. Woodstock claimed to be some sort of Canadian Indian. I don't remember. Susan might remember. I'm not sure. But it was awesome to be able to go there. And so he gave me this bone necklace when we were at Big Sandy. And it is it's not abstract, but a very simplified sort of Native American war eagle. And it had a hole in the middle, like where the heart would be. And the top part had a little thing. So I wore it as a necklace. Eventually it broke. And so what I did, after Woodstock was already gone, we had been split up, I was in the hole again. At Big Sandy, and which actually being in the hole at Big Sandy was it was like a vacation from the chaos,
Yeah.
You're like, thank you, Lord. So I was in the hole and with this biker guy, man, and he was a tattoo guy from California, and I drew up the symbol. So I've got the Native American War Eagle over here facing forward and then facing backwards, and so it's like me and Woodstock. Like my buddy.
Ike, I want to thank you for talking to us about Woodstock and Lewisburg and the Big Sandy and the whole.
Can I say one more thing about the painting?
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody understands what they're looking at when they see it. So this is a very typical cell. The angle you're looking at here, it's like if you walked in the door of a cell and you're talking 6 by 8 or 6 by 10 would be the size of your cell. And so you have kind of a strange angle on him here. I use this symbol here, the brokenness, would symbolize very, very literally the fact that we can't go anywhere, right? Because it's damage to his leg, so he can't walk, right? But like I generally use those symbols, like in the one back there, to represent, the hits we've taken along the way, the trauma, either emotionally or however it comes up in your life, whatever things that you're struggling and burdened with, like. If I'm making a series of illustrations about myself, you'll see that there sometimes are broken parts on it, and so yeah. And then I feel like I was true with the colors. I really love the blue feel of this one. I think it's a totally different kind of effort than that one. This was actually a very challenging painting to make, not because I was crying the whole time or anything like this, but because I wanted it to look like him, and I did the whole painting from memory. I didn't have any photographs that I looked at. I just looked at the canvas, and it was just like trying to make him be there. And it was a very challenging thing because I didn't want to just bring it if it wasn't right, you know. And so it's whether or not it's done, I don't know, but it's right enough to share with you guys. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it with us,
Yeah.
Ike. Thank you for being in the meeting house again. We'll do it again
Awesome.
real soon. Thanks a
Great.
bunch.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.